everyone, Kuruma back with yet more car talk. I know it's been a while, but yeah, we're moving on to bigger and better things. But before we get to the bigger and better things, I have a bit of a story to tell you guys. So it turns out my Polo has been declared a wreck, unfortunately. So I'll be just taking you through the event leading up to the accident, the insurance process, and a way forward after everything. So I'll probably split this up into maybe 3 or 4 parts. I don't want one video to be too lengthy. So in the specific one, I'll just be covering the accident, how it came to be, the insurance process, and the outcome of the insurance process, and a way forward. Before I start, I know most people are already thinking it's a Polo, no brainer. We know it's your fault. Well, give me a chance to explain, and then we can all come to a mutual agreement. So here's what happened. So I was obviously driving on the N14, and yeah, I was moving. It was almost as if, a bullet has been released from a barrel. I was moving at a high rate of speed, and it's at that point that I actually noticed that there was a car on the right-hand lane, because I was actually on the left-hand lane and I was going west, and there was also a car on the right-hand lane which was also going west. Upon seeing that car, I actually realized that this guy is probably sleeping or something. So I then proceeded to decelerating, and I tried to warn him so that he doesn't come back to my lane, because at that point I knew that I wasn't going to have enough time to actually react. And as it turns out, the worst possible outcome actually happened. Just as I was approaching this guy, he decided to cut back into my lane, and it is at that point that we actually made contact. So essentially, he hit me on the right front quarter panel, and it's at that point that my car then proceeded to go off the road, actually veer off the road, and I saw a fence. Now when they say you'll meet your maker, it was at that point that I actually started to think, now it's time. But fortunately, I was able to get it back on the road, and I proceeded to stop. And lo and behold, I saw that Corolla disappearing into the darkness. So I stopped, obviously then checked the sort of damage that my car had sustained. At that time, I didn't actually think it was as severe as it actually turned out to be. So I then attempted to actually drive back, because I was like maybe 10-15 k's away from home. But it's at that point when I was driving back that I started to get a warning on the low oil pressure. And that's when I knew that I probably lost oil in the process. Then I stopped. Then I managed to get someone to actually tow me back home, because I figured, you know what, I might as well just go home because it's closer, as opposed to waiting 3-4 hours for a tow truck, because around here things take time. So just to give you a brief on the accident and how it happened and the severity of it. So there was actually an accident analysis that I requested the tracker to do, which they then sent. So if you were to just think about it, so let's say this is the y-axis, this is the z-axis, and this is the x-axis. So the y-axis would represent the horizontal movement, the z-axis would represent the vertical movement, and then the x-axis would represent the movement from left to right. So upon impact taking place, there was, I think, 1.85 Gs in the opposite direction, which would be backwards. And I think there was about minus, or rather 4.8 Gs to the left, and then there was, I think, 6.5 Gs upwards. So that just gives you an idea of how severe the impact was. And I remember the accident analysis stated that the accident happened at this point, the car was traveling in this direction, and it is estimated that the accident or the impact was severe, and indeed was severe, because at the time the only damage that I picked up when the accident happened was that I saw that, okay, My bumper is obviously damaged, my headlight is damaged, my fog light is damaged, the greater part of the lower grille was damaged, obviously the bumper covers and all those other things, those two went. Then I also picked up that the intercooler was damaged. At the time I didn't actually pick up that the oil sump was also damaged, but later on I then picked up that the oil sump was actually damaged, which explained the low engine or the low oil pressure warning that I got. So great, finally managed to get my car home, went to the cops, reported the incident. Great, got an accident report number. And the following, because this happened on a Saturday, so I was only able to actually put the claim through on the Monday with the insurance. Lost the claim. Great, they came, collected the car the following day, and they made arrangements for me to get a courtesy car, which was a Kia Picanto 1 liter start. It was a quirky little thing for the period that I had it, but I'll get to that in another video. So the insurance process then began. They obviously then gave me a call to find out what exactly happened, when did it happen, what was going on, where was I going, all of that, gave them all the details, and they then requested that I give them consent to actually process certain information. This would be my bank statement, my tracker report, and what else did they request? I don't remember what else they requested, but they requested quite a number of things, which I did then share with them. Then the investigation process began. They then collected all the information, and they then started to build their own case, because as you know, it's a Polo. This accident happened quite late at night, so the assumption was there's probably alcohol involved, girls involved, parties involved, and all sorts of other things, which was not obviously, but it was not the case. But to them, they obviously had to prove beyond the shadow of doubt that this was just an innocent accident, or there was some sort of malice to it, and I was not being forthcoming with certain things. But at the end of the day, that was not the case. Then assessment report came, and I almost fell down, because I know my way around a car, and some of the things I took them with a pinch of salt, because I knew there's really no way that some of those things actually got damaged in the process, because I managed to actually get a proper look at the car before they actually took it away. So the total cost of repair was 158,000 and some rands, which is quite a significant amount of money. And with that, they then declared the car uneconomical to repair. And I was like, it's fine, sharp. It was at that moment that I imagined myself inside a Bavarian motorworks. I already saw it. 320D, 330D. I don't know. At that time I wasn't really sure which of the two I was leaning more towards. There was a odd 420D that was making it into the picture, but that was obviously contingent to the claim being finalized and obviously then being approved. So the claim process then dragged on and on and on, and they kept doing follow-ups to find out what was going on. And I must just warn you, when they're looking for a bank statement, they're not looking for any other thing besides the fact that on the day of the accident, what sort of purchases were you making? Were you at a club? Were you at a place of entertainment? Did you buy alcohol? All those kind of things. Because remember, they're looking to create a story. They're looking to build a story, because they want to see how your day started and how your day ended, leading up to the actual incident. So on that day, there was a purchase of alcohol that I made, but obviously I was not the one consuming that alcohol. I had bought it for other people, but they obviously then took that and they wanted to build a case on it, but it actually ended up nowhere. Then the next thing was my movements for the day, and but also that ended up nowhere. The next thing was the speed, and yeah, it was at that point when they requested the tracker report, and I knew that whoa, problems are coming. But I was like, you know what, let me let the process carry through, and we'll take it from there. So ultimately, my claim was rejected, and the car had to be returned back to me. And I then had to figure out what is the way forward. So it was at that point that I decided, you know what, let me get a second opinion, and after getting a second opinion, I'll decide if this car is worth keeping and attempting to repair, or should I just sell it for scrap, or whatever the case may be. So in the video that follows, we'll be discussing the extraction plan, and hopefully we'll have good news from the third-party assessment about the way forward. But if not, it may be the end of the Polo as we know it. I thank you.